Listen to these 3 words being spoken. I will play the same recording 3 times. Write down what you hear. Ready? Buy, die, guy. Buy, die, guy. Buy, die, guy. So what did you hear? Did you hear buy, die, guy? Or did you hear pie, tie, and kai? Listen again. Which one do you hear? Buy, die, guy. What I actually said was spy, sty, sky. And then I took the recordings and deleted the initial s from each word. And then I played that recording. Since I said the word spy and just deleted that s from the recording, should you not have heard pie? So why might some people have heard buy instead? What is the difference between pie and buy in speech? Well, pie begins with p and buy begins with b. Now watch the articulation of this sound. Can you tell which one it is? Try saying p. Now try saying b. What do you notice in your mouth? Feel how p and b feel in your mouth. Do you notice that they feel the same with just one slight difference? P has no voice, while b has your vocal cords vibrating. So that p and b have the same place and manner of articulation, with the only difference being voicing. So what would make it feel like your voice was on for p in spy? Say the word pie. Feel that p at the beginning. Is your voice on? P. No. Now say I in pie. Is your voice on? Yes. Your voice is always on for a vowel. Actually, the words vowel and voice share a root coming to us through Old French, from that Latin root that also gave us words like vocal. So all vowels are voiced. Now, when you articulated that p, what did you notice? Do you feel a little puff of air or aspiration? Put your hand in front of your mouth, or better yet, grab a Kleenex. Hold it right in front of your lips and isolate that p, p, p. Do you feel a puff of air? Did you see how the Kleenex moved? Now what if we do b, 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 b? The Kleenex doesn't move in that same way. That puff of air isn't as strong. We don't have aspiration in the same way that we do when we have our voiceless p. So when you say pie, feel that aspiration and then say after spy. Ready? Pie, spy, pie, spy, pie, spy. Did you notice the difference? You go ahead and try it. Grab a Kleenex and do it yourself. You can really feel that aspiration when that p is at the beginning, but it's not aspirated in the same way when it's after the s, like in spy. So if we're not aspirating that p, the articulation may be processed as closer to that voiced consonant, b, since our voice is turning on in anticipation of that vowel, I. And we don't have the aspiration to point us to the p. Remember, both p and b are stop consonants, also known as plosives. Now, what do you think might have happened when you heard the word sty without that s, and the word sky without that s? How might your brain have processed that consonant? If there was no aspiration, like a t at the beginning or a k at the beginning, how might you have perceived that consonant? Maybe you perceived it closer to being that voiced rather than that aspirated consonant. Now, if we look at the possible words, when we had the word spy and we removed that s at the beginning, well, it's possible that we have a word pie, and there's also possible that we have a word buy, because those exist in English. Since it wasn't aspirated, our brains maybe processed that unaspirated p, or like the voiced b, since our voice was turning on in anticipation of that vowel. Now, when you heard the word spy, though, that was the same p as you heard in the earlier one without that s. But your brain didn't wonder, is that spy or is that spy? Well, that's probably because we don't have any words that start with a sb or with an sb. And then when we looked at tie and die, well, we have words both with that aspirated t and the voice d. We have words in our language that begin with both of those phonemes and have that combination. And we have a word sty, but we don't have a sdy. We don't have any words that begin with sd. And when we had kai, possibly guy, we have a word sky, but again, we don't have a sg beginning in English. We don't have a sb consonant cluster. The same way we don't have a sd consonant cluster or a sg consonant cluster. So we weren't confused between spy and spy, or sty and sty, or sky and sky, even if that is what we're actually articulating, because the phonemes, remember, are processed in our brain. It's what we perceive. If I type SB in Word Searcher, in fact, I will come up with 0 matches. There are a lot of SP words, but no SB words. The same with SD. I don't have any SD words, any words that begin with that S and a D. But I do have words that begin with a S and a T or an ST. And I don't have any words that begin with an SG, SG. But I do have many words that begin with a SK or an SC, representing that unvoiced K. I'm sure you've seen this before. Does it make more sense now why the two sentences, the sky is falling and this guy is falling, might get mixed up? Or what about the Jimi Hendrix lyrics, excuse me, while I kiss the sky? Is he talking about kissing the sky or kissing a guy? So listen one last time and see what you hear now. Spy, die, guy. Spy, sty, sky. Spy, sty, sky. Spy, sty, sky. Remember, what comes out of our mouth and what our brains perceive aren't always the same thing. That's the difference between phonology, what goes on in our brain, and phonetics, what physically comes out of our mouth. Go to funlearning.ca to find out more about our courses and workshops and how we can support your learning.